Lastly, here, I'm going to introduce a very powerful tool in Excel, which is called the pivot table. If you are able to use the pivot table, in many cases you are able to do quick analysis and deep analysis in just a few clicks. And that's going to help you to understand the relationship among many variables. You're able to analyze your data according to the time dimension, according to the action dimension, and many others. Okay, so let's use this example again to illustrate this idea. Suppose I try to do this. I try to count the number of working days, or I try to count the number of days whose temperature is above 10. Okay, so that means I want to do analysis according to this working day column, or say the working day dimension. Or I want to do it with the temperature dimension, and so on and so on. So let's try to see how may I answer these two questions with my pivot table. So suppose I want to insert a pivot table. What I should do is to go to the Insert tab and then click on Pivot Table. So I need to select a range to create my pivot table from. So I need to select raw data. So the raw data is here. As long as I click on my data table somewhere inside the table, then when I try to create a pivot table, it will select that complete table for me directly. So typically all I need to do is to select OK, and then I see a screen like this. So there are several sections that you need to take a look if this is the first time for you to use a pivot table. So we have a working environment here, and this is the place for us to see the results. Here we get all those columns that are from our original data set, our raw data. So let's try working day first. If I click on working day, I'm going to see that it goes to this value section. Okay, it tells me that the sum of working day is 500. But here immediately you see we don't want to do this, because working day is a dimension for us to do the analysis. We want to distinguish days between working days and non-working days. We don't want to look at their values directly. So what should I do is that I have a rows and a column things here. They are dimensions. So I'm going to drag this working day item to, for example, rows. Then I can see here becomes row labels 0 and 1. That means the pivot table is ready to do some analysis according to working days and non-working days. So I may select CNT now. If I click on CNT, it goes to sum of CNT here. Or if I want to remove it, I drag it back to my pivot table fields. And in many cases, I just want to drag it directly to where I want, for example here. So then immediately I see for those non-working days, the sum of CNT is about 1 million. For working days, the sum of CNT is about 2.3 million. 2.3 million is where? It's here, right? Previously, we used SUMIF to get this value, but with pivot table, we don't need to type anything. We just drag this, drag that, and then we get this value. Of course, what we are trying to do is that we also want to get the count, the number of days that are working days. So here, we don't need to stick to sum. You click on this, and then you see a value field settings. You click on it. You have all kinds of different options for you. For example, you may count, okay? Then it tells you that the number of days whose working day is 1 is 500. The number of days whose working day is 0 is 231. And here, of course, it doesn't really matter whether you use CNT, whether you use weather situation or whatever. So for example, if I drag temperature here, and if I select count, then it basically does not care about what values are contained in that temperature column. It simply counts the number of occurrences of 0 and 1 in your working day column. Okay, and in many cases we can do things together. For example, I drag count to values once, and then I do it again. And then I can choose the second one to be count, for example. Then I can get this, right? Then what I may do is that I'm going to just keep those values. And here you probably already see that I'm doing paste special, because I'm going to keep using this place to do a further analysis, but I want to keep the values of my current analysis. So that's why here I'm doing copy and paste. But if I have that, then I can do very quick division and then get those average values. Okay, so that sounds not too bad. And here, of course, you can say, oh, how about I want to double check? Let's say I want to select average directly. Then immediately I see, okay, these numbers, immediately I can see they are correct. So this is a very quick way for us to find the sum of something, the average of something, according to some specific criteria. Okay, I can take this away, for example, and then also take this away. And then if I take this back here, what's going to happen? That means here the result is, if the temperature is less than 10 degrees, the daily average of rentals would be about 1,600. If it is above 10, then it's about 4,700. Okay, this is because I already have this temperature less than 10 column. So that's also important. Okay, so lastly, I'd like to show you what's going to happen if we also utilize these two sections. So for example, maybe I want to do an analysis about working day. Maybe I also want to do an analysis according to weather situation. So I'm going to drag this one. So then what's this? This is saying that, okay, I'm doing a joint analysis, or really a pivot table, saying that when it is not a working day and when it is a sunny day, we have the daily average as 4,500. Or if it is non-working day and the weather is not good, it's rainy, then it drops to 1,800. Okay, we may of course again change it to, let's say, count, and then we can see that, oh, okay, in the history in the past 2 years, there are just 3 days that is non-working and it's rainy, or there are 177 days that is working day and it's cloudy, something like that. So we're able to do a joint analysis according to 2 dimensions very easily if we are trying to do if we are using a pivot table. So of course you may select many different things in columns and in rows and in values. So for example, weather situation can be put here, and you can see that, okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. The table looks different, and you may choose the one you like. Okay, so lastly, there is also somewhere which is called filter. So what's that? For example, I may try to do this. So what's this? Let me do this. Okay, very quickly. So I have a few variables selected all together. So here, this means the days where the temperature is less than 10. Okay, here, less than 10. Here is the temperature that is above 10. And this is sunny, rainy, and cloudy. And here, I am trying to do filtering according to working days. When I select all, then I get 731 values, 731 days. If I select one, then I'm going to look at only those 500 days that are working days. And among all these working days, I can see the number of days under each criteria. And of course, I can again take a look at their average, their max, their mean, and whatever. Okay, so then I can do another analysis with in some sense, 3 variables or a 3-dimensional analysis. Okay, you may of course add more dimensions into all these 3 fields, but of course then your table would become somewhat messy if you add too many variables. So eventually it's up to you. It's up to you for designing your own table. But in general, pivot table would be very useful if you are trying to do some analysis across variables.